are bubbles and how do they work? They may look like small little soap bubbles, but there's much more to that. Now, bubbles are not what they appear to be. Here, for instance, take this regular bottle of bubbles, for instance, and put a little in a little dish and blow some. Now watch. The bubbles come out perfectly. But notice one thing about each bubble. They are all perfect circles at one point. This is because bubbles like to stay in a spherical form. Whether your bubble is humongous or really small, it's always going to stay in a spherical form. Now watch as this bubble slowly but surely forms to a spherical form. This is because bubbles always like to stay in the shape of a sphere, no matter if they're blown huge or they're blown small. Now bubbles have certain rules to them. Bubbles are wet and really like to stay that way. So look, I can blow a bubble, one pop, gone in an instant. When your hands are wet, the soap molecules accept this and let you enter their circle, as you'll see in this next clip. Now with this bubble, since it is wet and my hands are wet too, I can touch the bubble without any problems of it popping. As long as my hand's wet, the bubble doesn't pop. But if someone with dry hands comes up and pops my bubble, there it goes. Now, bubbles pop not with one motion, but with multiple motions. So instead of just exploding into thin air, you pop a bubble on this side, it'll go all the way across to the other side of the bubble and finally pop. We'll show that to you in the next clip. How do bubbles stay together? How do they form and how do they hold in that spherical form? Well, bubbles work by this thing called surface tension. Surface tension. Now, surface tension is when the molecules act differently around each other. So on the inside surface of the bubble, you have pulls going up and down and left to right, and whatever right turn is always a left turn, whatever left turn is always a right turn, whatever up is a down. And that's what keeps the liquid kind of circulating in itself, so it stays in that form. Now the outside, for every down pull, there's not an up pull. This is to keep it contained. When the area grows, this stretchy skin holds together because one is pulling in while the others are pulling in too. Now, that's called surface tension. So more on the science side of things, what color are bubbles? Well, many people believe that bubbles are clear. That's not the case at all. In fact, bubbles act like prisms and reflect every color of the rainbow. It may not be true, but if you look in the light, besides seeing your own reflection, you can also see the colors of the rainbow. You just have to look closely. Now, bubbles work because of the mixture that they're used in. Now, you can't have too much soap in a bubble and too much water in a bubble. If you put in too much soap, it'll be a little too goopy and really, it'll be just too heavy for the bubble. If you put in too much water, it's not really going to be able to hold together, right? So you're going to need the perfect bubble mixture. And here, we have a perfect way to show you that. So here are the ingredients that we're going to be using. You're going to need water, dish soap, cornstarch, and baking powder. This is thanks to the book of Klutz of Big Bubbles. Now, let's take 12 cups of water. Okay? Now we're going to move on to the 1 cup of dish soap. Now you're going to want to add that in there. I want to mix it around because you want to get all the soap off the cup container. Now you're going to add your 1 cup of cornstarch. Now you're going to use 2 tablespoons of baking powder. That's all I really want. Once you're done with that, you're going to want to start to mix it around. Once you're done mixing your bubble mixture, you're going to want to scrape the foam off the top of the liquid. This is because bubbles do not like foam and they can't form properly if foam's on the top. So here, take your foam, kind of like scoop it out with a ladle, just plop it over to the side. I hope you learned that bubbles aren't what they appear to be. There's much more science and information behind them that many people don't know. So next time you see a bubble, don't just think, hey look, a clear circle bubble. Think, that's a really cool spherical shape. And hey, if I touch it with my wet, bubbly, soapy hands, it won't pop. But if I touch it with a dry hand, it will. And bubbles don't just explode in thin air now, do they? No, from one side of the punctured bubble to the other side is how a bubble pops. Well, I hope you learned a lot, and I really enjoyed making this video.